want to start this video with a tip. This is early season fishing. The body of water that I'm sitting on literally had ice on it 2 days ago. It's finally open and able to be fished, but we're talking low temperatures. High 30s, low 40s max, and that's in the shallows. When you get deeper, it gets even colder. The number one tip I'm going to give you guys right off, all you Northeast anglers, listen up. Sleep in. Do not drag your butt out of bed at daylight and come out here, have to scrape your windshield, freeze for the first 3 hours until that sun starts coming up. Just don't do it. And the reason for that is a lot of reasons, but the main reason is the fish are just like you. They don't want to get out of their beds in the morning. They don't want to start moving around when the water is super cold and the coldest it's going to be all day. So what I recommend, sleep in, get up, get your breakfast in, do your morning routine, then head to the water. If you only have a few hours to fish the midday window. If you have that opportunity to pick the time you go, I highly recommend going midday. Don't go early morning. Summertime, whole different story. We'll talk about that in a few months. Today we're on my favorite lake. This is my PB lake. It's my home lake. It's close to my house. I know it really well. And we're going to be trying to see if we can get on the first bass of 2025. Strategy's pretty simple. We're going to hit the shallows and we're going to move a lot. This time of year, you're really not going to find a super active school of fish. Realistically, if I catch a couple of fish today, I'll be super happy. What you need to do is you need to move. You need to figure out where they're located, and you need to just kind of figure out a pattern. But it's not about sitting and picking apart a small area. It's really about getting out there, moving, find a spot, move again, and just keep repeating the pattern until you figure out what they want, and then try to replicate that in multiple spots. This time of year especially, you're really more, honestly, pissing the fish off than you are getting fish that are looking to feed. Once the weather starts to come up a little bit, that's when you're going to start breaking stuff down a little bit more. But for right now, we're going to start things off real simple. We're going to use a small ball head paddle tail. We're going to use a blade bait, a chatter bait, and probably start cranking once I get a little bit deeper. And let's see if we can go find some fish in 2025. All right, guys, did a little strategy move here. So I've noticed that where I'm fishing in the shallow area, there's a lot more grass than I actually expected. It's actually getting hung up on that ball head quite a bit. So we're changing things up, and we're going with belly weighted. This is actually a bait I poured. It's an England AI. It's got like a black back with a green pumpkin belly. I did that for two reasons. One, different color. I think the Pro Blue Shiner was too flashy. The water is super clear right now, high visibility, and I think it might just be too much. I want to be a little bit more subtle, and I'm going to fish it real slow. That belly weighted hook is going to allow me to rip it through the grass and not have the open hook constantly getting caught up on stuff. Technically, it's a good way to fish is rip it through the grass, but it's just not getting the action I want. So I wanted to go a little bit more weedless, a little bit more subtle, and we're going to see if that helps. We are getting closer to the deeper portion of the lake. I've been kind of moving up slowly, and we're just going to work our way through from shallow to deep, get out in the middle, maybe do some lipless, yo-yoing, things like that, see if there's some fish suspended out deep, and then work our way into a couple of bays that I happen to know are spawning flats just to see, just in case some of them largemouth got a little early and started to pull in a little bit shallow and start getting ready. They're definitely not going to be making beds or anything, but they might be looking for a snack up shallow, and hopefully we can go get on them. that might be a bass, guys. That is a bass, hell yeah. Nice. Come here, baby, get in that net. Get in that net. Yeah. 16¼ inch bass, guys. One more look at them. Hell yeah, baby. First bass 2025. All right, we got a lot to unpack on that fish catch, guys. So, first fish of 2025, 16¼ inch largemouth bass, caught on a square bill. I'll show you guys the bait. This is actually a bait I've had zero success on in the past. It's funny because I always thought it would be a good color, just never really had any success with it. But it's a black with some blue in it. It's got a chartreuse belly, little square bill. Caught that on my FX medium heavy moderate with some fluoro. But the significance of that fish is huge. First of all, that first fish feels so good in the beginning of the year, combined with the fact that that was the first fish in the native, first fish in this kayak, and first fish caught using forward-facing sonar. So that fish catch, I can't give all the credit to forward-facing sonar. I was fishing a crankbait. That being said, I was reeling, casting, playing around with it, just trying to figure out how to use forward-facing sonar, and I saw a big ball come off the bottom and start chasing my bait. So I stalled it, gave it a couple of pumps, and he hit it. So I got to give some of the credit to the forward-facing sonar, because I probably would have continued to just straight retrieve, and I may not have done that action that caused that fish to react and hit that bait. That is exciting for me because I've been playing with this fish finder for about 5 hours. Honestly, was getting a little frustrated with it and wasn't really sure if it was worth the money. I was starting to almost have buyer's remorse, but that right there just solidified that purchase, solidified coming out here on an early day and trying to fish. And honestly, I am so excited for the rest of this afternoon because I think those fish finally came in. I do want to mention, to kind of go with the point I made at the top of this video, guys, that fish was caught and it's like 2 o'clock. It's not 7 a.m. So sometimes it is very, very important to get out here and stay out here during the mid part of the day, especially early season, because those fish are interested and are moving around in the middle of the day when that water starts to warm up. So I guess square bill is going to be a thing, and we're going to keep working some moving baits through the column, see if we can go get ourselves on a few more. All right, guys, doing a quick check-in here, kind of coasting back into the access. Fished deep for a while, used a lipless, used a blade bait, swim jig, crankbait, chatterbait, nothing was firing. I do think that that fish may have just been a rogue, but we're still at it. Right now, what we're doing is we're actually working a big swim bait. We're using a 6" trace, and this is something that I can't emphasize enough early season. I know the textbook says finesse, downsize, slow down, but that's not always the case. You have to think about it from a bass biology standpoint. Right now, they're in winter phase, right? So their mentality is, I'm going to eat every other day, once a day, whatever they need. But essentially, they're only eating very infrequently. They're cold. They don't want to move a lot. They just are waiting in limbo for that winter phase to end, that pre-spawn to hit, and then eventually start feeding up and heading to the bang. So if you take into account that you could throw a small 3" Kitech, you could throw a Ned rig, a small bait, but those bass may not be interested in chasing down 5 or 6 small baits to fill their belly when they could just eat one bluegill size meal and then be done for the day. It's really logical if you think about it. Like, even as a human, you're not going to chase down 7 little tiny meals when you could just eat a cheeseburger. Why would you do that? The bass are kind of doing the same thing. They're gonna eat the one big thing, go back to suspending out deep and hang out, wait for the next day and repeat that process. And I will tell you from experience, the other thing is the big girls, a lot of the times that's how they behave. They're gonna eat the one big meal and then they're gonna move on with their day. So you will honestly upsize your bite a lot, but you'll also be able to pull in some smaller fish. Some curious fish will follow it. I had literally 7-inch perch following this trace back. So you'll get information, which is another valuable thing this time of year. Get all the data you can. Look at the follows, look at the size of the perch that follow. Look at the color patterns on them. Are they more green? Are they more black? Are they mute colors? Things like that are super, super important this time of year because you're only gonna get a few bites. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna pretend like you're gonna come out and have the best day of your life when there's 40-degree water. It's just not gonna happen. But what will happen is if you collect data, get the information, and take the time to really break things down and be logical about the baits that you fish, it'll help you to catch more fish, or at the very least, you'll learn more and more about the body of water, and over time, that information helps you to be more consistent. We're still going for a little while here, guys, but I'm not so sure it's gonna be great. So I'm hoping to get on a few more fish, but if not, we'll see you guys at the truck. Well, we're gonna call it right there, guys. I tried a jerk bait in the column, played around with the forward-facing sonar, so that was kind of fun learning that. And that's kind of a point I want to bring up for slow, bad days. This doesn't necessarily have to be pre-spawn, winter, any time that you're fishing. If you have some baits that you're not super confident in, if you have new technology that you're trying to learn, this is the time. Get out there, spend the time. You're already out here. You already dragged the kayak out. You're already on the water. Yeah, I didn't catch but one fish today, but what you can learn is just as valuable as catching some fish. So what I highly recommend, if you don't have confidence in a jerk bait, a spinner bait, that's how I learned a lot of these techniques, is in this early season. I come out, I take the time to practice, I see how it looks in the water, I learn the cadences that I like. Just try different baits, those crankbaits that you've never fished or didn't really know what they look like in the water. Try them out. This time of year is when you can learn. And that is very, very important because you know what? Very, very soon, we're going to be getting in the spawn and it's going to be too busy, too hectic. You're going to be ready to just catch fish. You're not going to want to mess around. So take the time when it's slow, when you're having a rough day, and learn, practice, and it will help you in the long run to be able to catch more fish, be more consistent, and honestly, you'll be able to not waste your day by being able to catch some knowledge, even if you can't catch some fish. Want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. Really, really appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I've got a lot more content coming your way. This is just the beginning of an awesome year of fishing. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and as always, let's get out there, catch more fish.